Hello there. Man, what an interesting ride it is to be a Star Wars fan. No other franchise has ever ascended to the highest of grounds, just to fall into a quicksand of despair and easily becoming the worst bi-yearly abortion that we as consumers have to endure. And I'm not putting any specific blame on any one person or company, because that would practically be giving away my ranking. And that's exactly what's taking place here. My definitive ranking of all 12 feature-length films, including episode 1 through 9, 2 spin-offs, and the animated Clone Wars film. Yes, I'm including that. And how this is going to work is I'm going to be going worst to best. I will give you my thoughts of the film, my favorite part of the film, and at the end of it, my rating out of 10. And to start us off, coming in last place, the honor goes to the most recent abomination by Disney, Episode 9, The Fall of Skywalker. The final kill cam 360 no-scope to make Episode 1 through 6 completely meaningless, should you choose to watch the sequels, which I would not recommend. This film turns Papa Palpatine into a fucking joke, as well as continue to push the worst character in all of Star Wars, Ray Plutt, as the new face of the franchise, and it practically makes me sick. However, there is one bright spot of Episode 9, and it's 2 words, Babu Frick. But all in all, this one gets a 1 out of 10. Coming in 11th place is another fan favorite, Episode 8, The Last Jedi. A tipping point for most people who somehow enjoyed Force Awakens, then came to realize that Disney is not to be admired when spitting nostalgia into our mouths. TLJ is a funny case that actually answered no questions that the fans wanted and deliberately steered away from The Force Awakens to where it really doesn't even fit into the trilogy at all, and you could honestly skip it altogether and be totally fine. But I wouldn't advise that, because then you would miss out on the adventures of Rose and Finn. Now the question is, what's my favorite part? I suppose the scene where Luke fucks with Rey and to reach out to the Force, that kind of made me laugh a little bit. Anyway, this gets a 2 out of 10. Coming in 10th place is, you probably guessed it, Episode 7, The Force Awakens. A movie I was dreading before it even released, unlike the plebeians who suck on the teat of Disney. I knew we were in for a stinker, and oh boy, was it even worse than I thought. However, they managed to get worse with every sequel. And with that said, this was actually the least offensive to me personally, but it's still a burning bag of shit, so it doesn't get a pass from me, like some other fans. But if there was one thing I didn't hate, it was when Finn got to square up with a stormtrooper who recognized him, and the way he pulled that shock weapon out. This one gets a 3 out of 10. Coming in 9th place, Solo, A Star Wars Story. And I'm gonna make this quick, because I actually haven't even seen this one, because nothing about it screamed Han Solo to me. So I'm gonna give it a better than the sequels out of 10. In 8th, I've got The Clone Wars. Now I've only ever actually seen this one once, like 12 years ago, and what I can remember is it was not very good. Before Ahsoka was a beloved character in the animated TV show, she was a disturbingly annoying one in the animated movie, however. But the only detail I can even remember about the fucking plot is something to do with a baby Jabba the Hutt. So that's probably not a good sign. But considering it never really insulted me, it gets a 4 out of 10. 7th place goes to Rogue One, the only decent movie produced by Disney. However, it is definitely a very meh movie for me, with Donnie Yen being the only interesting character and Ben Mendelsohn doing a good job as usual, but it wasn't enough to keep me invested. I also kind of find it funny how some people thought it was bold to kill off the main characters at the end, when it was kind of a given that they were fucked considering they weren't in the original trilogy. My favorite part of the film though is probably when Ben Mendelsohn goes to see Darth Vader on Mustafar, and seeing Vader take his skin-soothing bath was pretty neat, I guess. But anyway, it's inoffensive, so 6.5 out of 10. Alright, now we get into the actual 6 Star Wars films that I acknowledge as canon and watch on a yearly basis, starting with number 6, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Honestly, my only gripe with this movie, like most people, is Jake Lloyd was not the way to go as Anakin, with all of his delivery sounding almost as bad as my delivery. Although, I did think one scene was pretty good in particular. The scene where he had to leave his mother behind to join the Jedi was pretty solid. Other than that, I'm pretty fine with everything else about this film. Qui-Gon definitely carries the film from sinking for me. And Duel of the Fates is undoubtedly the best scene of the film, with meeting Jar Jar taking close second. 7 out of 10. And coming in number 5 is a spicy take with Episode 4, A New Hope, aka the original Star Wars movie, that without this one, none of this could have blown up into pop culture the way it did. And it's a pretty solid first outing, because to be honest, from here on forward, I don't really have anything negative to say about this film, and a huge plus for Episode 4 is that it stands on its own as a film with a damn near perfect 3-act structure, mainly because at the time there really were no sequels in mind. My favorite part of this one is no particular scene or character, but the chemistry between Luke, Leia, and Han, because they truly do feel like 3 completely different people being forced to get along for the sake of the mission, and growing a naturally developed friendship. All in all, great film. 7.5 out of 10. Now this is probably where I lose a lot of people, because at number 4, I have Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And no, your ears and eyes are not deceiving you. I put Attack of the Clones over A New Hope. However, I'm not here to try and spew a bunch of bullshit, trying to convince you that it's a better film or anything, because it's not. A New Hope is a better film, but Attack of the Clones was just a bigger part of my childhood, therefore I am much more forgiving of its flaws, and I will probably never find it unenjoyable. As for my favorite part of the film, it's probably gotta go to when Obi-Wan takes his trip to Kamino, with the assist of Dexter Jettster, of course, where he would learn that there is a clone army being brewed up just for him. 8 out of 10. Number 3 is an interesting one. This was my second favorite one for years until this year, and that's Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. I've always been a huge fan of finales and payoffs, and that's why this used to have an extra boost in the rankings. But in my last viewing of the film, the goofy writing was harder than usual to look past, and I have to be true to myself that this one has a lot of problems, but despite it, I still love the story between Luke and Vader and his journey towards redemption, which brings me to my favorite part of the film, which is pretty much every scene between Luke and Vader, from Luke sensing the good in his father, to their final battle, and of course the eventual death of Anakin Skywalker. 8.5 out of 10. My number 2 pick is most people's number 1, and that's Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And it makes sense. I mean, this movie's good. It's damn good. And it ends on a somber note, which is always great. There's so many iconic moments and lore building that takes place in this film. And it's probably the first film most fans think of when they think of Star Wars fondly. And when it comes to my favorite part of this film, it has to be Darth fucking Vader, man. He is undoubtedly at his very best in this one. Whether he's giving orders or chopping his son's hand off, he definitely became a pop culture icon in this one. 8.5 out of 10. And you could probably guess my top spot by this point, and it's awarded to Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This movie gets an interesting rap, because this is a lot of people's favorite, or you just might think it's the best of the prequels but still lukewarm on the whole thing, or you straight up hate it because you have a personal vendetta towards the prequels. As for me, I completely embrace the fact that my love for this movie is driven by the ultimate nostalgia, because this was the first Star Wars film I ever saw in theaters. So even though the OT might be better written, I would rather rewatch this one 66 times before rewatching any other. Oh, and I have to acknowledge the memes, man. Revenge of the Sith is the king of Star Wars memes, and to be honest, it just made me enjoy the film even more. So as for my favorite part of the film, it's sort of a 2-for-1, if you will, because it's Order 66 and the Battle of Mustafar between Anakin and Obi-Wan. You don't know the power of the high ground. A perfect 10 out of 10. Alright, let me know what your ranking is in the comments, or don't. Alright, I'm done.